thinking of a client that I worked with when I was working in oncology. I think just because it's a pretty unique case. And this man had cancer. That's why he was in the hospital. And he was also HIV positive. And so it was AIDS-related cancer. But he also had bone mets, so it had spread to his bones. So they had to take off his right arm to save him. So he was refusing everybody. He was refusing physical therapy and the psychologist and the psychiatrist because his amputation had really devastated him. And so when I went to go see him, I said, hi, I'm your occupational therapist. I'm here to see what your goals are, see how we can help. Let's see if we can, how I can help you be able to engage in the activities that are meaningful for you. And he said, well, I want to die. Do you want to help me with that? And honestly, I was like, okay, well, I'll come back later. And so I went back later and I said to him, well, okay, tell me, why do you want to end your life? And he said, well, I'm a painter, and what's gotten me through having cancer and having AIDS has been painting. And now that I have the amputation of my right arm, I can't paint anymore. So I'm done. And I said, okay, well, I guess we have to get you back to painting. So I told his partner to go home and just get all of his painting supplies, his paintbrushes. And then I said, okay, well, let's work with the person who does the prosthesis so that we can see which prosthetic would help you best be able to hold your supplies and be able to paint again. So he was intrigued enough that we then, we chose like the best tool, the best, prosthetic limb to hold onto his paintbrushes. And so we chose a claw, and I took the paintbrushes and I built them up with foam because it was just better than the fine motor, needs for the claw to be able to hold on to it. So it was a bigger than base to hold on to. And so then he started seeing his life as someone who could possibly paint again. So he started saying yes to the PT services and yes to the psychologist and the psychiatrist. And so we started working on what were some of the other things that he needed to do and how were we going to adapt them or build on the strengths that he already had so that he was able to still be able to do the things that were meaningful in his life. And he decided to try sculpting when he was discharged from the hospital because he could actually use his prosthetic as a tool when working on a wheel, and he could, stabilize with the left hand and then use his prosthetic with the right hand. And so he started. So other pieces that we were just using were like basically, during the therapy sessions were just working on like self-care activities and what sort of adaptive equipment he would need in order to be able to do the things that he needed to do in his daily life. But it was also just a lot of exploring meaningful occupations and maybe trying some new ones, as well as working on the ones that still he wanted to keep doing. So
maybe I'll give an example of a client who had chronic migraines. She was a healthcare provider. Say in terms of treatment plan, the first thing that you always do is you evaluate somebody, right? And saying like, okay, where are you at? Like, what's going on in your life, right? That's making you seek OT. What are your current daily routines and habits like? Be looking at how those habits and routines are or are not promoting somebody's goals. And then coming up with a plan. This was a very smart person. And yet, like, they knew that they were going to get a migraine after they ate chocolate and still did it. A lot of it was like, trying to integrate healthy things into their day to help them pace themselves, to help them change their eating routines, to help them change their physical activity levels, get better sleep, have better stress management skills. So like, for instance, we worked on ergonomics at work and body mechanics so that she wouldn't strain her head and neck because that would trigger migraines too. And same thing at the computer. We assessed her whole computer workstation. We took a look at not just food triggers, but other sorts of eating routines like blood sugar levels and not drinking water for long periods of time and all of that stuff. And we problem solved how to get her to be able to do those things, even with the work, like the high productivity demands at work. And then sleep was a big issue. Falling asleep, staying asleep, all of that kind of stuff. And then, the subsequent day, drinking caffeine in order to make up for that sleep loss, which also triggers migraines, by the way. Yay. So yeah, it was just analyzing this whole cycle. We knew where the stressors were, which helped us kind of target them better and build specific strategies around those issues. For the stressful work environment, like in terms of her productivity demands, like, making sure she sees enough patients and all of that kind of stuff, We just built in, we looked at her schedule and tried to build in some pacing. So instead of going really hard until she had to stop, like, okay, you usually see a total of like, 15 patients a day, which is a ton. Can you do the first 5 and then just like take even like a 5-minute sliver of time and just breathe, even if your next patient is waiting, right? Just like have a snack, have some water, just like sit, but don't like go on the computer or anything like that because this computer screen was a trigger too. And then go back and do your next 5, right? So we just kind of broke it up a little bit. And then eventually she got to the point where she just felt like she could like take it and do it independently. And so I discharged her and was like, call me if you need anything.